Alright, so we're here. The PDP Riffmaster Strumswitch replacement video. Full tutorial. I'm going to be taking the guitar apart. I'll show you all the screws and everything, you know, how to get it all apart. And just replacing the magnetic switches in there that have no real feedback with some physical limit switches. They're called micro switches, but it's a limit switch. I'll have links for the things that I buy. Nothing affiliated, but it's just, you know, other things that I buy the part wise, because I usually get everything off Amazon or eBay or a reputable site enough, you know. If I do get stuff from questionable sites, I definitely don't share that. I just take the risk, you know. But yeah, so let's get into it. First thing though, I had already recorded an entire video. Well, I can't say entire. I recorded like 30% of a video. Basically taking the whole thing apart, getting like one of the holes done for the switches. But I did some work. Then I realized the screws and the hardware weren't long enough, and I also took way too much apart that I didn't need to. So I put the whole thing back together. We're going to be doing just a full tutorial here on how to replace these. I may have mentioned in the video from the other day that I want to add a USB port down here for the USB dongle, because, you know, I don't want to ever lose it. And I noticed when I was taking the faceplate, or pickguard rather, off, that there's this little spot in here for the USB. Now that's cool. Very happy they did that, and I'm, you know, excited they did that. That's actually kind of cool. I was talking some shit and being like, hey, you're gonna lose this, and now I see that you're not. But for me personally, because I am going to be removing the D-pad and all of this stuff and modifying the pickguard to be, you know, flat, I do not want to be violently pulling this thing on and off. It's actually like the clips are really good, but it takes some pressure to get it on, and it takes a good amount of force to get it off. So if I do that with a bondoed up, modified pickguard all the time, after like even putting it on, I'm going to be really careful because it might crack, you know. So this is a great idea for everyone else in the entire world except for me. I'm still going to put the USB port on the bottom of the guitar, probably here. I just kind of figured there would be, this is in the way, figured there would be enough that this part kind of protects it from the bottom. But for now we will store it in its storage hole. Let's just change cameras and we'll start going to work. Cool. And if I don't, I'm sorry, but usually I'll have chapters, so the intro, you can just skip all that and come right to this next part. So, cool. Thank you. Alright, so let's get right into it. It's real early in the morning, so, I mean, sorry if there's birds and cars and stuff and things going on, and that I have the door open and it's a little bright. But also, this guitar is just kind of hard to see because it's all black. Like, everything inside, it's all black. So, maybe I'll bring the top down some. I already took the pickguard off. I'm going to stop calling it a faceplate, it's a pickguard. But literally there's just this little ridge here. There's this little ridge here. And what you got to do, take two fingers. I take two fingers and my thumb, and I put the two fingers there, and I just push against the body, and it should pop up. I just mentioned this before, the thing flexes a lot when I do that, and I don't want to take this freaking thing off once I modify all of that. I keep on bringing that up because I'm going to. It's extremely annoying to love a guitar and also hate it because you're a lefty and all of that is where your palm is. So you're messing up and missing things. It's not fun, right? So, I'm going to leave the USB there just so I don't lose it. I want to be lazy and use the drill to open this, so I'm going to. But I will say right now, besides this missing screw here, there's one, two, there's only four. There's four up here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws here. There are, take the neck, put it back into flippy mode. Don't put pressure on the neck or else it's really hard to pull like I just did. You flip that over. Don't mind my dirty ass rag. It's just here because I don't want to scratch the body up. So you have 4 screws in here. I don't have my my little gun that I usually use. It's at work, so I'm going to use a DeWalt, just 20. So these 4 screws here, and then these 4 are there. And it's worth mentioning, It's worth mentioning that these 4 screws are different. These 4 are different than all the other screws. These ones are like sheet metal screws, or sheet metal type screws. The threads are very coarse, whereas the rest of them are more like drywall slash just like self-penetrate. I don't know the colloquial, whatever word that is. I don't know the term for standard like screws. I just call them drywall screws because they have a point. But we're not working with wood, so I'll show you in a sec though. And the reason why I say this is that every screw goes into a specific spot for a reason. They're all different lengths, different sizes. So for me, I use tweezers to get the little screws out because I'm meticulous and weird. But you can just flip the guitar over or use a magnet. That one's stuck in there pretty good. I'll show you the screws though. So these screws have the points, and I would actually argue the threads are kind of the same, but this just has the point, and it's a little bit longer than the other one. And you'll know when you go to put a screw into the wrong slot, right away you'll be like, this is real rough and real tough. If it's not like on an angle, which is really hard to do with the way that these channels work, they're kind of designed to make it fit flat. So we've got the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 4, the 8 screws on the front out. Now we flip the guitar back over, and I believe there are 8 more, or maybe 7. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 16 total. They evened it out pretty well. A normal screwdriver works just fine. I got this one from Walmart. It's in like a cheapo set for $10 years and years ago when I didn't have any money and I didn't have a good job. And guess what? I still use it because fancy tool. I mean, I have fancy tools. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have my nice Wias. Don't get me wrong. My initials on them. But I like using the cheap stuff to show that you can. There's these memes that go around from time to time where it's like, person says you can build this simple thing in your garage, like a DIYer, and then it shows a picture of their garage, and they have like every tool known to man, every power this, every power that. They have 16 table saws for every little thing. It's like they have $1 million garage, you know, and so it's kind of discouraging for some people. Found that missing screw, by the way. It's really discouraging for some people, so I like to do things kind of, I'm not going to say hack mastery because I've been doing this for such a long time, but I try to do things in such a way where it's appealing to just anybody. I don't want anyone to look at my video and look at it strictly for entertaining purposes. That's cool, but it'd be weird for you guys to be like, oh, I watch this dude only because it's entertaining. I want you to actually get something out of it too, you know. I try to have like a trifecta because in normal build videos, I usually tell stories and like talk about my life and things of that nature. And I'm talking over what I'm doing. So what we need to do is we need to remove the current strum switch. It's a switch. Anything that does that is a switch, right? Anything that actuates with it's a switch. It's literally what it is. It's just 2 little pieces of metal, real close to each other. And when I put it close, I don't know if you can actually hear it. I don't even know if it's like a physical connection when it gets close, because I don't hear anything. But it's just, that's cool for like your trunk. When you open up your trunk and like the light comes on and you're like, how did that happen? And like, it's just one of these little things in there that's just, you know, that's cool. But for a guitar and a switch, it's just weird. So what we want to do is we want to take, there's this little tab here, 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 and here, and I'll actually just I'll just draw where they are, so it's kind of more visual. We want to take a pair of cutters or whatever, and we want to cut these off. I've already cut them off, but I'm doing the motion to show you cut those off. We're gonna be building up material in here, so we don't have to worry about like cutting anything else. We just want it to be flat and flush, so things aren't sticking up. So I guess because I already started this side, we'll just move to this side and we'll do it fresh from start. So what you want to do, I'll explain as I go here. What we want to do is we want to put this, use my marker for all of this. We want to put this screw in first. That way we can pivot, got to do this without covering anything up. That way we can pivot this piece to where we can get the strum part, that, you know, the original switch section, we can get that to hit here. But the important thing is just to get a good solid connection, like a screw there. Then we can worry about how close this needs to be. The only issue that I'm seeing though is that this guy right here is in the way. So we don't care about that kind of stuff. It's just plastic. Even if it's structural, it's not necessary. Your guitar is not going to fall apart and disappear and break apart without it. One of the screws might even go there, and you know what we do? We just don't deal with it. I do mention that because the back may be modified. Like, I may have to modify the back of the body to accommodate the switch, which is fine. If there's any interference when we put the back of the body on, we will get there. You know, we'll deal with it when we get there, but just mentioning it now. That way, if anything, when I'm doing it later, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? We brought this up. Now, I only really needed to get as low as this part here because I can't go any lower than that. That's where the USB part is, and I'm not about to hollow out a whole body when I don't have to. I just need clearance for me putting my screw. Weirdly enough, it's probably going to go like right there, and we'll figure out what I usually do. Is I didn't even do it intentionally, but I usually just cut this part flush with this one here, and then I can put like a washer that rests against it, and that'll, you know, we got to build up height anyways on the switch so we can get it to an appropriate height here. I don't have animations, I'm sorry. I'm not about to use AI to do it either, but basically we want to have try to do this for both cameras. We want to have the actuation point of the strum bar to be not so much at the very end, but right about, you know, let's say 80% there. But we also want, relative to the guitar, we don't want it to be super down below because it'll give you a very shallow click and it won't give you a reliable click. Over time, you'll mess up the strum bar, it'll gall it up, and then it'll get stuck. I've been doing this a long time. Experience. So if you do it much higher, it kind of just rests on it and rubs it more than digging in. So we want to have, if this is the strum bar here, we want to have it kind of just like near the top, but not fully, so it doesn't slip under. But we also, again, don't want it down below. So just somewhere near the top to when it's fully actuated. Even though it doesn't go far, the strum bar obviously will move because it pivots. But when that comes down, we want it to be able to... I want to explain it in full detail, but I also don't want to overcomplicate anything. Some of you are here literally just to watch me do it, to copy it. So I'm sorry if I'm getting too convoluted. It's an expensive guitar, it's a new guitar, and I don't want to do it wrong, and I also want to explain it thoroughly enough where it's not just a copy-paste, you know. I'm going to say, though, I'm totally cool, literally right where I put that, putting the hole. Now, I'm using M3 hardware. Maybe I'll stop real quick and go over my hardware. So the hardware that we're going to be using is going to be M3 flatheads. The reason why we're using flatheads is because we're using a countersink to make sure the flathead is flat, because it's going to be on the opposite side of the guitar where the pickguard covers it, but we don't want to have a dip in the pickguard, or like a bump, I should say. We want it to be flush. Now, if you do not have a countersink, or you don't want to, you know, get one, they're real cheap, but hey, some people, I'm not going to get into it, they're not going to buy it, a countersink. What you can do is you can get a larger drill bit, one that, you know, most drill bits are kind of shallow on their angles, but if you can get a drill bit that has just kind of a point to it, you can do it enough to where it just rips the plastic a little bit, and you can get this to be flush. It doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to get that pickguard on top. You can totally do this using epoxy. I just don't recommend it. I am an epoxy lover. I use it on all my builds. As strong as it is for a Strumswitch, and for like how you have to set it, like you have to set it really precisely. Epoxy is just not one of those things I would recommend using. So yeah, you kind of have to use the screws, and I would always recommend the flatheads with the countersink. It's just what I've always done. I used to not, and I would just drill through the guitars, and then you'd be playing it like an old Strats. I would just drill through the faceplate or the pickguard on that as well, and just have a screw head. I wouldn't even care. I just wanted a better switch. But now that I know what I'm doing, yes, we use the flathead with the countersink, and we make it all good. So I'm using like a 3-point something here. I think it's a 2.2, just to open up the hole, or to start it. And it's plastic, so I'm going slow. You go slow. Don't go fast. There's no reason for it. I do need my M3 drill bit though. Alright, I found a 3.2. You want to have a 3.2 to like a 3.5. I mean, if you're using, I think equivalent would be a 440, maybe a 632, but I think a 440 it would be equivalent in American, but metric is just the way to go. So now we open that hole, we check if the screw fits through it. Screw fits through it. We don't want it to be too sloppy, but we want it to fit through nice. Then we get our countersink out. Now this is kind of like a I wouldn't say multi-step, but it's not a one and done type thing. So what you want to do is you want to take the countersink, put it on the hole, and without putting much pressure on the drill, we start the drill in slow, and we let it kind of, well, it looks like we can go a little more. Now we just put that in there. We put this nice little cone, convex, whatever you want to call it, and it's still, it kind of rubs, you know. It's flipping around when I'm putting my finger on it. So we just do this 2-3 times. Say that was a little bit more. Light pressure, and we're almost there. I may even go a little bit. It's kind of hard getting them out. I may even go a little bit more than I need, as it's pretty thick plastic right here. And there we go. Now we have a flush screw, and once we put the pickguard back on top, it'll just be completely hidden. Nothing about it. M3 by 30 is what I'm using. I brought home like a bunch of stuff for the projects, so it was like 30, 35, something or other. Basically, you need kind of a long screw for what we're doing here. I'm gonna move that. And the reason why we need such a long screw, gotta really do this with two hands here, is that once we have all of the like washers and then everything pulling it up, we still need room to get that screw on. So we're actually looking pretty good here. That fell through, of course. I have hard washers, which are essentially just thicker hard, like a thicker flat washer. They are hardened, that's why they're called hard washers, but they are just bigger. So I'm gonna put that as my first little like step, and it seems like it's not high enough. I don't like where that's sitting there. We can see it's sitting just, if I hold it kind of flush, it's sitting not high enough. But I bet you, if I put one more of these on there, it's going to be sitting right perfectly where I want it. 100% where I want it. Then what we do is we get, I'm going to be using lock washers when I'm done, but for now I'm just another flat washer. And then we're going to hand tight this just enough to where it's not going to go anywhere, right? And now we're going to double check. We'll get this out of the way. I don't want to rip it by any means, but we just need it out of the way. Move that back down. So it looks like we're going to have to be building this up on this side too. Now that this is tight, it's kind of low again. I don't like that. Although, to be honest, no. We're going to leave the height right where it's at. I like that. Mainly because it seems if I were to go any more, it might actually flip up. I don't want that. Cool, paper towel roll. Just grab that out of the trash. I just need something to hold this up so I can do the strum. So we're rested in the middle. Make sure we're rested in the middle. We want to come up. It's a magnet, but I'm noticing this, that it's kind of grabbing on, which is okay. They've all been this way. I just noticed this one's got like a more powerful of a magnet where it's actually grabbing on, but I don't think that'll matter. But I'm mentioning it just to mention it. What I like to do is I'll hold this kind of, we have this tight, and I hold this there, and I will just play around with this. Like, that's too far because it just pushes on it. If I put some pressure, seems like right there is perfect. The only issue is how do I mark this? You can mark it with a drill bit, and that actually did work, so we'll do that. There is a mark right here, and you always want to measure twice, 3, triple, quadruple times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look down the barrel there, and I'm going to see that I missed my mark. Oh no, that's actually good, because then the mark will be... The tricky part is... Yeah, no, that mark is 100% perfect. I've just been doing this long enough where it's pretty natural. Making sure always to support your device, guitar, whatever you're drilling, so you're not snapping plastics and things of that nature. Tweezers. It's a baby cockroach! Like 2 people are gonna get that.
What is it? What? What is it? It's a baby cockroach!
Then we get our tweezers back. Countersink the hole. And once you countersink a couple holes, you'll see like, oh, I have an idea of how much I really have to go. Cool, and now we're good there. Now the only tricky part is we need to build up the same amount. I don't want to lose this screw. Need those hard washers. I got one. Oh, and those are M4s. So I also have M3 hard washers. I'll use M4 and M3 here. Actually, we'll see. I don't think M4 is really going to be suffice. Yeah, no, see, I needed an M3 there. See, we have to remove some plastic. You probably can't see that because my finger's in the way, but this washer is not going to take because, well, there's all this plastic in the way. And it's as simple as just taking the cutters and cutting the plastic out of the way because we don't need it no more. And that gets rid of any chance of ever putting those originals back. I was about to talk some smack, but people work hard to engineer stuff, and I'm not going to be a jerk about it. But it is fun also being an engineer, because then you can re-engineer everybody's shit. So we need maybe 2 more. Still not enough. We'll do like M3. I'm really not explaining what type, or I should say how like high and thick and all I'm making it, because this is one of those things you just got to figure out on your own. I've taken like circuit boards and snapped them in half and drilled holes through them and made wedges and it's a specific word for it. Shim, to make shims, but because it's all different for everybody, I just recommend doing what you gotta do. Sorry, I'm looking for stuff as I'm talking. I need some. Here we go. So I need a lock washer. Because this is going to be a strum bar. Like, you're going to be racking on this all the time. You want to tighten the living shit out of it. And I may even put a lock nut. What a lock nut is when you put a nut here, and this is locked. Or this is not locked. This is just a nut. Even with the lock, if you have a lock nut and washer and all that, or a lock washer, a washer and all that, you have a nut here, this can still come loose. So a lot of times, like on bikes and cars and things that move a lot, they'll put just the standard nut here, and they'll put another nut here and actually tighten the two to each other, and then they can't move at all, you know. Usually like bearings and stuff of that nature. I don't have a wrench. I'm using an adjustable because that's always just the most convenient. I'm going to tighten this one down, and then because they're countersunk, you really don't have a choice on where they're going. It's another thing to be really precise about. Wherever you pick your holes, that's just where it's going to go. You kind of have a little bit to fudge with the switch itself because the hole is obviously like an M4, or 4mm rather. So you have that little bit of wiggle room in play, but it's not much. So I mentioned that, you know, I will tighten this side down first. And it's tight to my satisfaction. Oh. I don't know at what point that happened, but I can feel that it happened. Cool. I do want to put that lock washer here. This tiny little hardware, man. Imagine building stuff where you literally have to use, like, tiny tools to get it to work. Also, I'm using a socket head flathead. It's a socket head cap screw, but it's not a cap screw. It's a socket head flathead. I know that sounds weird, but socket head being that it's for an Allen wrench. You can use screw, like Phillips flat. I don't care. Use whatever hardware you want, but a flathead is just what I recommend. And it's actually good. I don't know if you can see this, but it's pushing the strum bar a little bit into the offset direction. Like it's not exactly centered, which is good, because that means that I have a little bit of pressure on this. And it's right where I want. I mean, it's fucking... It sounds so awesome. Cool. Now we just got to do the same to the other side, which is awesome because I already did one of the holes on the other side. So now we just need to do the second switch. I already did that one hole before, but, you know, obviously I went through the motions on the first one, so we should be good there. I wanted to mention before we go any further about the contacts here. This is the common, and this is the normally open. We want to use those, not normally closed. Normally closed would make the switch be on all the time until you switch it, then it's off. Normally open means that it's always off when you close it, or when you turn it on, when you hit the switch, then you close the contact and it's on. So it's not always the same contacts. Usually this is always the common, and it's a different color, usually brass or copper, or at least plated at least. But don't just look at this as the go-to guide. Just look at the switch common, normally open. That's what you need. Alright, so let's keep on going here. This is going to be real quick. So what we want is one of those little hard washers, and we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side. We built up with the 4 there. That was my, height that I wanted. As I mentioned, you get to the height that you need, however you can get there. I mean, hey, for the people that have 3D printers, measure it out with a caliper and make a 3D printed little, like, holder for it, you know? You could even use the original screw holes. You don't have to do all this. Okay, so now that we're at the second switch, two things. One, we have to put this back to center because the switch is obviously being pushed by the other switch. The strum bar is being pushed by the other switch. So we need to hold it kind of center, and then we need to do essentially the same thing. We want to do it to where the strum bar this one may be pushing too much on this side. Because I want this to push back a little bit, but it's not. So an easy fix here is I can loosen these two up and I can move this just a little bit back. No big deal there. I kind of saw that coming. That I do want it to push in, but maybe not that much. So we'll flip the guitar. Oops. We'll flip the guitar back this way. There's this sweet spot window right in the middle for both of these strums, or switches rather. Okay, so what we want is essentially just to leave it right where it's at. The only tricky part is I have to hold this back while I tighten this, which might not work because this nut, if you tighten fast enough, you can usually overcome the nut's ability to twist. Okay, now we put the second one in. Okay, we want it literally right there. This time I'm just going to put the drill bit on the drill. It's going to be tricky and not easy. But no one ever said this was supposed to be easy. The hardest part is getting this switch to not... getting the switch to not move. I really just want a mark, and I got my mark. Okay, get the plastic out of the way. Get my bigger drill bit. Remember to support your device. I keep on saying device, but just support whatever it is you're doing. We're going to be cutting a lot of plastic out here. And how we're going to do that is we're going to come in like, fuck. It's always, oh man. Piece of plastic just flew right into my lip. Ugh. There's always a fair amount of cleanup at the end of these. I usually take the blowgun and blow the guitar out after I clean off the table of all the debris. I could take the switch off and make it easier on myself, but the time saved to do that is literally the same as me just struggling a little bit. Alright, countersink. Countersink's a hole. Oh, dang. Look at how close that is. Any more over and it would have been effed. Now, I will say that I'm probably going to be effed simply because of where this screw is going to be. You're going to see that. So, what we got to do is we got to take this drill bit. we gotta kind of cut inward. Actually, you know what we're gonna do? Realistically, is we're just gonna grab a slightly bigger drill. Alright, it's not much bigger. It's gonna be real silly here. But as long as it's flush, we'll figure out the rest. I just don't want to nick it too much, and I did more than I wanted to, but that's good enough. Oh, well, obviously using the wrong screw here. Probably have to use the longer one. But I guess let's just start building it up. Let's do... Do I have any more of the M4s? I gotta have at least one more, right? Thought I brought extras of everything, but apparently not. No big deal. Just put, you know what? For leverage sake. Alright, that is a longer screw. That might be too long. Can't do that. I need the screw that will fit. The one that's... Okay. It's this one here. And if I can do this just right, I don't have to move any of these washers. Cool. Then we put this. Then we put this. Then we put this. And once we get these both situated and where I want them permanently, I think we're good. I think once I tighten this down, we're going to be alright. That one's a little high. It's a little high. Alright, this one is on a big ol' angle, but I'm going to leave it. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes you just got to roll with it. If it works exactly how it is, let's just leave it and not mess with it. I like to leave well enough alone. Oh, and I guess I did mention about the lock nut. Whoop. I'm using my head to hold the guitar up. Okay. So now, Strumswitch. Let's do it quick. Perfect. Perfect. It's so perfect. Now what we need to do is grab these, plug it back in, because it was never my intention to unplug it. And then we literally cut. Well, we will cut this. Yeah, I could desolder it. I literally could just desolder it and be done. But no, we'll... PDP. Cool. Now I put those into my little stash, and I will forever know what those are for. Next step is literally just to solder the wires there. Solder the wires. It's not going to be the most fun, but I don't really want to extend it, so we'll just do it that way. It doesn't really matter which goes to which, but I'm going to do red to the common. No, you know what? We'll do white to common, red to... Cool. Alright, so now I just need to get my soldering station out. I haven't prepped any of that at all. And actually, last time I used this thing, I lost my sponge. So we're no sponge. We're just gonna rock it as is. I will obviously use my... I'll use this. With some water. Let's turn that on. Let's get some solder. Where's my good solder? Oh, okay. This isn't my good solder, but rosin core solder is really all I care about. So, there we go. And wire strippers. You can use wire cutters to strip wires, like a set of these. You know, you can kind of just pinch it a little bit. Here, I'll even do one. You can kind of just pinch it. You don't really cut it, you just pinch it. And then you can pull the insulation off. But because I have the proper tools, even though I said I do like to show hackmastery shit sometimes, we're going to do what's right. I believe these are 24, if not 26 gauge. I'm just looking at it, but I'm just, you know, been doing this long enough. Oh my god, look at that tip and how amazing it looks. The soldering guns I have at work, they get used probably on the same like basis as mine does. They just look like crap because no one knows what they're doing. Oh, are you going to say I can't solder to this? I don't want to melt this switch. I'm trying to get solder to stick to it. Okay, we're looking good. Watch out for that ribbon cable. Just gonna move it over there. Ribbon cables burn. They burn and they aren't really fixable. I'm sure there's somebody's got a video on it somewhere. We're gonna tin the wires. All right, what I'm doing right now is I'm tinning the wires and the pads. So what tinning does is it basically is just pre-soldering everything. And I'm even going to chop the... Alright. Cleaning off my tip. I'm even going to chop these. I always do. I always overcut these. And then tin a whole bunch up. Just like that. I don't want these in the guitar. And then we do red to there. Red to there. This should be real quick. Red to here, red to there. Cool. Now I just need this. I should have cut that one shorter, so I'm not stretching it. Yeah, I am kind of stretching this one here. I don't like that, because that means it's going to be... Oh, you know what? When it's all said and done, it won't actually be stretched too bad. As I'm touching my finger to the other pin, the other contact that I just soldered, and I'm burning myself really good. Like, it's tight, but it's not tight enough to really... When you're doing this, if you do this, cut that wire off and solder another wire onto it. Extend that wire is basically what I'm saying. Okay. And we are done. Literally. And obviously have to test it, put it back together. But we're done. So I'll put this to the side so it can cool down. What I'm going to do right now then is I'm going to put the back on. Let's move this. Oh, you know what? We're not done. Remember I said we may have some interference with the switches on the back of the guitar? So let's double check if we can put this on or not. Here, you know what? I said I wasn't going to get the screws out, but I'm going to. Most of them didn't want to come out. That's fine. Okay, so right off the bat, I see this one here is a big culprit. I might not be able to cut it first try. You know what you do? With ones like this, you stick your... Oh, okay. Normally you can snap them off. I just need to get in here enough to... There we go. Okay. Clean it up in the sense of we don't want any jagged parts. Okay, there's that. What's next? What is next is going to be in the way. I mean, it feels like it's gonna go, but then there's obviously something touching here. And then, oh, this obviously here, that's the part that is screwed on. Oh, and that's nice and clean. I like to take those and use them as studs for when I build custom circuit boards or things inside a guitar. I'll literally cut that bottom to be nice and flush, and then I'll put like the circuit board on 4 of these or 2 or whatever of these, and I put it on the body and I epoxy these to the body, and then I make my own pegs. This, I think, is just a screw problem. This screw is just so far. Let's get these screws out of the back. It'll be a lot easier to work on. There we go. Then I don't have to worry if it's the screws that are interfering or if it's... Yeah, no, perfect. Well, there's obviously something in here that I need to clean off first. Oh, there's another screw. Alright, so we'll take the air gun real quick and blow this out. Alright. Okay, so now it's just a matter of putting it all back together. Now remember what I said, the pointy screws go into the body, like the main parts. Where did I put all the screws? Oh, I put them all over here. It's also nice that they just use standard Phillips bits. Also, when I'm doing this, it's in one, and the clutch is like off, basically. Whatever. It builds character, damn it. Whoop. Alright, before I test this, I'm going to do a nice fair amount of cleaning up. Alright, there's that. There's that. There's that. There is that. And then I have still one missing, I think. Well, no, because I have the one is gone now, so I don't have to worry about it. Let's get the USB out now, so I don't have to do it again. Let's get the pick guard. I guess I can do like a... Okay. Oh, we gotta screw these in, obviously. Don't forget that. Alright. Yeah, so I want to point out real quick, you definitely can see that screw head right there. I personally don't care. When I do the modification here to the guitar, I will wind up bondoing. I'll actually sink the screw lower, and then I'll just put some Bondo over that, and I'll wind up cleaning that up. I mean, I guess for now I could just paint it with a Sharpie, but I just don't care enough. The Strumswitch is more important to me than anything else, obviously. So yeah, let's clean up and let's test this.